What's up, everybody? Welcome to the jungle. We're brought to you here by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm your host, Joe Farsing. Below me, as usual, well, usually next to me, is Parker Fields. Alongside me, to my right, is Bill Lack. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Pretty good, Joe. How are you doing tonight?
I am
nice to see you as well, Bill.
Doing well. Good to see you guys.
So we have a fun show for you guys. We're going to go over best / favorite Bengals defensive players in team history. And we've got a nice cross section of younger, and youngest. I'll say that, Bill. You're young. I'm younger. Parker's youngest.
I appreciate that.
Before we get into that,
Joe and I were just talking before we went on, and I honestly have T-shirts older than Parker is.
I have T-shirts older than myself.
There you go.
I've been with my wife longer than Parker's been alive, so there's my age thing there. Do us all a favor, if you guys are watching us live, click likes, click subscribe, all that fun crap. If you guys are listening to this tomorrow morning on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that fun stuff, give us 5-star reviews. We deserve it. We do hard work here. We are working hard for the money. We're going to stay up, maybe not late, but we're here live on a Wednesday because why not? If you're watching the Reds, I don't know why you're watching the Reds. They're not very good. At least you get something to kind of decompress after a demoralizing 7-3 loss to the Padres. Also, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/RiverfrontCincinnati. Subscribe for as low as $2 a month. You get to hang on our Slack channel. Also, we have our live show, Riverfront Live, July 6th, Saturday, 12 to 2 p.m. Smoke Justice over in Covington. Afterwards, we'll walk over. The Reds play the
Tigers.
Yeah, I was going to say Tigers at 4 o'clock. So eat some good smoked meats, have some nice frosty beverages, hang out with some cool people, and then walk over and drink more to get past the Reds game. So I'm not sure what they'll be doing, where they'll be in early July, but I don't think it'll be contending. So we shall see.
We can hope.
We can hope. I mean, I'm the eternal optimist. Not really. Real quickly here, just a little bit of news and notes. Voluntary camp continues. Joe Burrow is throwing and looking fine. I mean, do we even have any concerns? I mean, we talked about this before. Any reason for any concern going forward about his wrist?
I don't have any problems about his wrist. I have his problems with his ability to stay healthy. I think I'm always going to have those with Joe from now on.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, it's always going to be in the back of our minds right now. Like, every time he takes a big hit, every time he takes a big fall, like, is he getting up? But, I mean, as far as the wrist is concerned, like, I don't think it's going to change the way he throws the football or anything. That doesn't surprise me that he looks the same throwing the ball.
Yeah, and it's not like he's out there just tossing on the side with just like warming up before a game. I mean, he's throwing deep routes. He's throwing the entire route tree right now, and he looks good spinning it. I mean, I don't want to say he's swole, as the kids used to say. Do they still say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Swole's still a term for sure.
Okay, cool. I just want to double check. But yeah, I mean, he's visibly more muscular than he was last year, and again, that's good. I mean, he's always a little bit on the, I don't want to say skinny side, but as many hits as the offensive line has forced him to take, as many hits as he has kind of caused himself, because he'll extend the play. The more weight, the more muscle to absorb that, the better. But yeah, I kind of agree with you, Bill. Like, he just gets. You don't want to say he's injury prone, but he's had 4 seasons and he's had 2 season-ending injuries, plus the calf going into last year. Obviously, the appendectomy, nothing. That's, you can't do anything about that. But it's a concerning trend going forward. I mean, you just worry about how much that's going to affect him 5, 6, 7 years down the line. Guys who haven't been, guys whose body just hasn't been through surgeries and all that crap. How long is he going to be able to stay at top of his game? But as of now, he looks great and ready to roll. So just stay healthy until, like, no stupid shit in OTAs, no stupid shit in training camp. Just get healthy. Don't play any snaps in preseason, and let's get to game 1 at 100%. Like, that's all I care about.
Yeah. In fact, I was on with you the day he did the calf.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It happened that day.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm the bad luck. Maybe I should not.
That's right. We were talking about it, and the tweet popped up, and checking about it with Greg was with us. So,
and it didn't sound like it was any big deal at the time, but it ended up being a very big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it bothered him for the first month of the season. So, ready for some tiresome news? The tiresome T. Higgins news segment. Not expected to sign his franchise. Yeah, exactly. This is yawn. Whatever, we know this. Not expected to sign his franchise tender before OTAs. He's not signing his franchise tender until training camp. It's going to be same thing as Jesse Bates. He's going to get a couple weeks in, and right before games start getting played, right before preseason games start, he'll sign, and then he'll get his work in. We're not really worried about that. He's not going to be ready. He's going to sign it. It's $21 million. He's not sitting out for that. No. He needs to be out there as much as the team needs him to be out there, because he's got an injury history just like Burrow. So he needs to prove he can be out there for 16, 17 games a season.
Yeah, and last year, his tape definitely last year was the worst year of his career, probably. He struggled some last year compared to the 2 years prior from that. So I think he definitely, even for his value for other teams, wants to put up a better year than he did last year.
Yeah, it's a contract year. That's a big saying in baseball. And if this is the same thing when you're playing on the cat or on the tag, it's a contract year.
Yeah,
and he does, and I think that can't be stressed enough that he needs to show teams that he's a 16 game player, and that he can be healthy for 16. Because for the money he wants, the money he's looking for, they don't want a guy that's going to be healthy for 12 games and maybe play a couple more banged up. They want a guy that they can count on to be a stud for 16 games.
Right, and that's the whole reason why. I mean, Bengals have never been outside of Burrow, have never been a team that's guaranteed a lot of money for that exact reason. If you want someone to guarantee, I don't know what he's supposedly looking for. I mean, you hear stuff put out that obviously is leaked by his agent to a specific unnamed, I will not name her, member of the Cincinnati press, to get that, to get that third guaranteed year, to get 50, 60, $70 million guaranteed. Teams want to make sure you're going to be out there. They're not going to guarantee that if they only think you're going to be out there for one full season. So,
right.
I mean, he's a damn good player, and any team's going to be better with him on the field. But nobody's better when you're on the sideline or in the training room.
You can't help the club when you're in the tub.
Exactly. What's the best ability there, Parker?
Availability.
Attaboy. Outside of that, I mean, we're in the slow, not a whole lot of news right now. I don't think there are even any signings of anybody. We covered Tyler Boyd getting signed last week by Tennessee. Right now, it's volunteer camp. Nobody get hurt. No one get in trouble doing anything stupid. No Rashee Rice incidents or anything like that. Just come in, put your work in. Obviously, there are all the stories like this guy's looking great, and Amarius Mims is working with the first team because Trent Brown is dealing with some personal crap off the field, and you heard how great he's looked. It's all hyperbole. Let's just everyone get healthy and get there in July when the real work puts in.
He's in the best shape of his life.
Right. What's just funny? You don't hear much about that in NFL talk. It's always baseball, which football is the one where it's a little more important to be in better shape. Although they just say Mims put on another 5 pounds of muscle.
I was about to say the whole Reds team ate cheeseburgers the entire offseason. You look at the roster, dude. I was about to say that wasn't true with our Reds this year. They didn't come in the best shape of their life.
That's Nate Dotson's hefty boys. He likes the beefy boys. That's why he likes Mike Ford. So
and Ashcraft, he's a kind of a beefy guy too.
Abbott's getting big too.
Who?
Abbott's putting on some weight too.
Is he? He's eating at the training table.
Oh, yeah.
Not to get off topic, but you can't complain about the starting pitching.
Yeah. I mean, Hunter Green he's the one guy that looks like he actually hit the weight room. He's a very built, almost Mikey biceps type upper body, and they're all pitching. Outside of Nick Martinez, who's only pitching as the injury replacement, they're all pitching pretty well. So,
Mickey Lolich used to say, "You don't run the ball across the plate." And he looked like he pitched on a Friday night softball league,
I just remember baseball cards, and then this way back when the guys in the 80s. Charlie Ackerfeld, like there were guys that legitimately had beer guts that they were pitchers. And I mean, you'll still see a beefy guy. I mean, remember Jumbo Diaz, and there's, Danny Burgers.
Pretty big.
Yeah, Ashcraft is, he's a little meaty. Johnny Cueto got a little bit.
But not compared to the late 60s, early 70s big.
Yeah, there were guys. These are guys legitimately, like Bill said, these guys look like they just pulled them off of a beer league softball team. Like they're going to drink 3 beers, go out and hit the ball about 400 feet over the fence, and then go back and drink 3 more beers.
The Babe Ruth School of Baseball.
Douse a couple hot dogs, battle a couple STDs, and go out and go 3 for 4 with 2 home runs.
Right. We digress.
Bill, you've got a reputation for getting the train off the tracks. I do appreciate that you were not the first. You were the second person to drop an F-bomb on the Red Show. Tim, of all people, Tim Daniels dropped one on an episode with Nate and actually myself. So that's well done. I salute you.
In fact, I was texting with Nate today, and I said I figured I was probably on double secret probation.
That's what bumped you up on my list to have you on my show. Like you can't be on here without.
I got a little wound up that night on the podcast.
We'll allow. Like I said, we welcome that here. We're not family friendly. Like nobody should be letting their kids. Like my kids shouldn't even be listening to me, much less anyone else's kids. So, all right, let's get on to the topic of the day, shall we?
Absolutely.
Best defensive players. We'll say best/favorite defensive players in team history. We'll just kind of go position group by position group. We're not going to go pick 11 players each because, frankly, I don't want to be here for 3 hours. I'm tired and kids are running me into the ground. We'll start off with edge. Bill, who do you have as your best edge player in team history?
Well, when you brought this subject up to me and I started jotting names down, the first defensive end that came to my mind was Ross Browner. I firmly believe, I know I don't believe it, but when their first Super Bowl in '81, he had one of the best defensive games I've ever seen in a Super Bowl. He was really, really, really good that day. I think he would have had an outside shot at winning the MVP if the Bengals would have won that game. Of course, Anderson probably would have been the MVP, but he just really, really had a good game. The other guy that came to my mind who was a defensive end / defensive tackle is Eddie Edwards.
Yeah. Eddie Edwards is the guy that I pick. I mean, they've got him listed as a defensive end. I know he played all up and down the defensive line, but he's the career team leader in sacks at 84.5. Somehow never made a Pro Bowl. Did play on the first 2 Super Bowl teams. The last one in '88, he was kind of just a rotational player. I didn't really make a whole lot of impact, and they get a half sack for the entire season. But I don't want to say an unsung guy because there were more well-known players throughout, all across the team while he was there. I mean, on Reggie Williams, was linebacker, was there playing linebacker the entire time. I think it was a little bigger name. And, definitely had the big name guys in the secondary earlier in his career. But, yeah, just a really solid player for a long time that never got the recognition, at least outside of Cincinnati, that he deserved.
In the 80s, he was probably their best defensive lineman.
Yeah. Consistently. I mean, the only guy that you could count, he'd get you 1980, 12 sacks, 10 sacks in 81, 6 sacks, 13 sacks, 9 sacks, 8.5. And then he gets up, in his 30s and he's still 6.5, 4 sacks, and he's getting towards mid 30s. Do you think, I'll ask you, Bill, do you think he deserves to be enshrined in the Ring of Honor at some point? Obviously, there's a backlog of guys that are borderline NFL Hall of Famers, that to get through first, but you think he'll, in the next 5-10 years?
I don't think so. He never made a Pro Bowl. I mean, he was a leader on those teams. But when you think of guys that you remember playing for the Bengals, 20, 30 years later, I don't think he'll be one of those. And I'm not sure they're ever going to catch up if they're only doing 2 people a year.
Yeah, they should have started 4 for the first 3 years just to get the backlog of big name guys.
I mean, the one the ballot just came out today, I think.
Yeah,
and every name on there is worthy. Absolutely, every name on there is worthy of enshrinement, I think. So and he's not on that list. So my feeling is no. I don't think he'll ever be a Ring of Honor.
Okay, and just I forgot to mention this. So the 2024 nominees again. This is open to season ticket holders. Corey Dillon, Max Montoya, Jim Breach, David Fulcher, Lamar Parrish, James Brooks, Tim Krumrie, Bob Trumpy, Chris Collinsworth, Dave Lapham, and Reggie Williams. Real quick again, that we'll get off topic here, but who do you think should be the two that make it this year, Bill?
If I was voting, it would be Parrish and Trumpy. I'd go the oldest guys first. If I could do a third, it'd be Lapham.
Okay. Parker?
I mean, honestly, for this topic, I don't have much of an opinion, honestly. I'm not going to sit here and act like I watched any of those guys. So, truthfully, I can give an opinion in about 10 years on who we should be putting in the Ring of Honor.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Dylan, these are all guys from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said for putting the older guys in before they get, I don't want to say forgotten. Bob Lapham should be in just as a contributor. I mean, he's Mr. Bengal. I mean, he's to the Bengals what Joe Nuxall was to the Reds. Was he the greatest offensive lineman? No, but he was solid enough to play for a long time and played every position.
It was versatile, yeah.
Yeah, and he is the face of the Bengals franchise and has been for 30 some odd years as the radio voice. So I think he'll get in. I think Dylan will probably get in, and I think Parrish will get in as well. Probably Parrish and Trumpy or Parrish and Reggie Williams would be my two guys that I think deserve it more. Not that these guys don't deserve it, but again, you're looking to get the older guys in just before they get too far back, and no one has any recollection of them.
Well, and I want them to be able to get in while they're still alive.
Exactly. You don't want to have it happen to what Ken Riley in the Hall of Fame, to where the Bengals didn't promote him enough. And the NFL screws the Bengals when it comes. The NFL writers screw them when it comes to recognition for awards and Hall of Fame. But if your own team isn't promoting you and isn't celebrating you, then you're not going to even get a push to the NFL Hall of Fame. And thankfully, he got enshrined in the Hall of Fame, but not while he was alive to enjoy it. So that's the biggest downside of that. So, all right, Parker, who do you have for the best edge defensive end?
I'm gonna go with Carlos Dunlap here. I mean, he's the all-time leader in sacks in Bengals career history. 2-time Pro Bowler with the Bengals. He was never one of the top 5 edges in the NFL or anything like that, but he was just so damn consistent for so long. 11 seasons on the Bengals, 10 full seasons, was traded halfway through 2020. He was just always a very, very solid edge rusher, really good at getting to the quarterback. And he was just a freak athletically, Carlos Dunlap was. I mean, a massive, massive dude, quick on the edge. And, was playing up until literally last year, 2 years ago, 2022. So great career. And he's the all-time leader in sacks, Bengals history.
He, there's going to be a lot of bad taste in people's mouth. And with a lot of these guys, that's what hurts him. That's what's hurt Corey Dillon in Bengals fans' eyes, was kind of the way they left. He looked like a damn pterodactyl. Carlos, he was 6'6", and his arms were legitimately 8 feet long. I have no idea how you could be arms that proportionally long. When he was on and when he was motivated, he was dynamite. The reason that he fell to the second round, and the one thing that kept him from being a perennial Pro Bowl player was his motor wasn't always on. But when he was on, and especially when Geno, we'll get to Geno Atkins here very shortly, I'm sure. When it's obvious pass rush, those are some good teams in the early 2010s. You've got a hard quarterback's going to have a hard time getting the ball out when you got Geno coming up the middle and Carlos coming off the edge. Just getting the ball away from his gigantic mitts. I don't know how many pass defending he had just batting balls down. So, Bill, who do you got? Or I'm sorry, we already had you. Never mind.
It's you.
How about we move to the next position?
Okay.
Defensive tackle. Parker, I'll let you take this one since I just mentioned him.
I'm going to go with Geno Atkins here. 8-time Pro Bowler with the Bengals, 2-time All-Pro, 2010s Hall of Fame, what did I say? What did I write down? Hall of Fame All 2010s team. That was a tongue twister. I was trying to say that. Obviously, one of the best defensive tackles from the 2010s, probably the second best outside of Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
He kind of got overshadowed how good he was in his career because he just always was that second-tier defensive tackle right behind Aaron Donald, who has a case for the best defensive player ever. Like, seriously, he's got a case for it. So he was overshadowed by that. And I wrote down on here, future Hall of Famer, question mark. What do we think about that? Does he have a shot? He's obviously not first ballot, but I'm saying, does he have a shot to get in?
If you're asking whether someone with his profile and his stat line should be in the Hall of Fame, absolutely. He walked so that Aaron Donald could run. I mean, look, Aaron Donald would not have been drafted where he was drafted and would not have gotten the opportunity because he's a smaller, very similar body style to Geno Atkins. He would not have gotten that opportunity if Geno Atkins hadn't been that dominant before Aaron Donald came into the league. I mean, that was the comparison for Aaron Donald. He looks and plays like Geno Atkins. Obviously, he surpassed him, but I mean, yeah, Geno Atkins was 2-time first team All-Pro, second team 1 year, made 8 Pro Bowls. I mean, the guy was just a fantastic player. And yeah, I think he deserves and will get attention for the Hall of Fame in a handful of years. What do you think, Bill?
My concern is if Kenny Anderson isn't in the Hall of Fame and Willie Anderson isn't in the Hall of Fame, Geno Atkins ain't making the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, there's a backlog of guys that need to get in still.
Yeah,
I think where he played is a big problem for him. If he'd have put up those numbers playing for the Jets or the Giants, you'd have been reading his name every week in the paper.
I think the one thing kind of in his favor over the other guys is Bengals were a playoff team for his first 5 teams, and he was he got the All-Pro and Pro Bowl recognition.
Yeah, he did.
So he was recognized, and then unfortunately, Aaron Donald becomes Geno Atkins 2.0 and is better, a better player. So that I don't want to say brings him down a tier, but it kind of
also a really weird end to his career.
Yeah,
like he was still trying to play and stuff. Like a really odd way his career ended. Like,
yeah, I mean, he was
one day he was just gone. Like seriously.
He was still a useful and a decent player in 2019. Was injured in 2020 and only played 8 games and then gone.
Yeah, he was still a Pro Bowler in 2019.
Yeah. So.
And then that's why I guess he just didn't want to play anywhere else. I would assume somebody had to have wanted him to play still. There's no way.
Well, it's like Dunlap. I mean, when he left here, he went to Seattle, I think, for a short period of time, and then
won a Super Bowl with
Kansas City. Yeah. So, gotta have it, and I'm gonna first go ahead and say I know my pick isn't the best, but I'm gonna say most underrated, and he's a current guy, so that kind of bends my rule that I wasn't gonna pick current guys, but I was leaving other guys on the table for Bill. BJ Hill. He's got the 4th most sacks in team history as a defensive tackle, most interceptions, which were on back-to-back weeks, which is hilarious. But especially when he was with Ogunjobi in 2021, and I think this coming up year with Sheldon Rankins, where he's able to rotate in and out, and he's not having to be out there and overexposed as a 3-down player. I just think he's a lights-out player, and when you remember that he was acquired for Billy Price.
Mm-hmm. That may be the best trade in Bengal history.
There aren't a lot to choose from, period, since they don't like making trades. But yeah, that literally, you want to say, you want your trades are great when both teams benefit. No, screw that. I want my team to absolutely fleece the other guys and to hell with it, especially when it's the New York Giants who lucked into 2 Super Bowls as it was with the crappy Manning brother. Nah, I'll take that fleecing all day long.
So I've got 2 defensive tackles that I want to throw out there. The first one played in the mid-70s, Coy Bacon.
Okay.
The Bengals' all-time sack leader at 21.5
from
single season.
Where is he from? Ironton, Ohio.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yep.
And I'll be honest, I didn't get to see a whole lot of Coy Bacon because that's when I was in the service. So I was gone most of the time. If I caught the Bengals while I was deployed or when I was living in Florida, it was a very lucky weekend. But the other guy, and I did get to see quite a bit of him, was Mike Reed. And Mike Reed was a beast. Yeah. I think he is the best defensive tackle that's ever played for the Bengals. He only played 4 years, and then he went into music, and he's been winning Grammys ever since.
Yeah, I was gonna say won a lot of Grammys.
Yeah, he was Joe Green quick off the ball. I mean, there were times that he looked like he knew the snap count. That's how quick he was off the ball. I can remember being at a game, and they were playing the Oilers when Dan Pastorini was their quarterback, and they ran a stunt, and Reed looped, and the middle just opened up, and I was in the end zone, and I swear to God I could see Pastorini's eyes get this big around. And Reed hit him, and I thought he killed him.
It's the gigantic oh shit.
Yeah. But if you ever get to watch any of those, those NFL films things of those mid-'70s, early '70s Bengals teams, they'll always have some good Mike Reed footage on him, and he was just a beast. I mean, he was just so quick off the ball, very aggressive. Not a huge guy. He was kind of low and built low to the ground and wide, but quick as a cat. Just a really, really good player.
Yeah, I mean, he's listed at 6'3", 255. So, and obviously guys were smaller in the 70s than they are now, but even then, even for that day and age, wasn't very big. But yeah, just watching old NFL films, and you see the even though the Bengals were a pretty decent team in the 70s, they were well overshadowed by the Steelers, but you still see a handful of them in the old NFL films, movies and everything, and you'd see Mike Reed flash a lot. And I guess he battled injuries as well, but one of those to where like you kind of wish, obviously for his sake, I mean his life has gone on. He's had a fantastic probably better post NFL career than he would have had, had he stayed in the league. But you wonder what could have happened. I mean, he easily could have and would have still been around on the '81 team.
Possibly. I mean, he would have been 11 years in there. That's a long time for a defensive tackle, but he could have been.
Yeah.
And those teams those Bengal teams in the 70s, there were some really good teams in the mid, from 72 on. But the Oilers were really good, and the Steelers were the Steelers. I mean, I remember there was one year the Bengals lost 3 games and didn't make the playoffs, and they lost them all in the division.
Yeah.
So anyway, moving on.
Surprisingly, no one mentioned it, and I left him out, giving you a chance to buy it, Adam. Tim Krumrie. Just the guttiest and grittiest, I think, Bengal of all time. I mean,
he was on my list down at the bottom, and I forgot about him. He led the team in tackles as a defensive tackle. I mean, who does that? Like that's insane. I mean, breaking his leg in Super Bowl, and that was, talk about nasty injuries. Having to watch that as an 8-year-old. Hey, my team's in the Super Bowl. Hey, look, one of the best defensive players snaps his leg like a tree branch. Well, that's an ugly piece of film.
But
he was. I mean, he's listed as a defensive, but he was really a nose.
Yeah.
And he led the team in tackles as a nose tackle, which means he's playing head up on a guy all the time.
Yeah.
My favorite Tim Krumrie story was the Cowboys came into town to play the Bengals, and they asked this Dallas center, and I don't remember who his name was. He said, "Who's going to be? You're going to be blocking?" He said, "I don't know, some guy Crummy or something like that." And the Bengals jumped out in front like 24-0 in this game, and Krumrie, he was beating this center before he could snap the ball. Krumrie was on him. I can remember one ball that he was trying to shotgun it, and the ball went flying over the quarterback's head because Krumrie hit him so hard. And then there's a story about Krumrie. Forrest Gregg went up to scout when he was at Wisconsin, and he knocked Forrest Gregg on his ass. And Chris.
Uh-oh.
Lost you, Bill. He froze. All right, we'll let him get unfrozen. But yeah, Tim Krumrie, like again, Park, you didn't get a chance to watch him, but just it was rare to see him not bleeding from the nose or somewhere and having like blood simmer on his uniform. I mean, just an absolute gamer. The guys that you hear them talk about.
Yeah, like the good thing with like older players and stuff like that is my dad's a huge sports nerd too. So like I've seen highlights of all these guys and stuff like that. It's just hard to give an opinion.
Right. I mean? Well, that's what I was talking to Bill before we came on here. But we're all three from totally, different eras.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Bill can talk about like the early teams and into the 80s to where I was alive in the 80s, but I didn't really start following. Bill's not back yet. Oh, you there? You Bill back? You back, Bill?
Yep, I lost. Did everybody drop out or just me?
Just you.
Just you.
Oh.
You froze.
Okay.
Either you're really good at holding your breath or you froze up there for a minute. So, anyway, moving on to linebacker.
So after the Trim Crumb rag.
There he goes.
Your computer does not want you talking about Tim Krumrie, Bill.
Yeah, we gotta get off the subject.
We'll change subject to linebacker and we'll let Oh, hang on.
There he is.
You're back again?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm back again. I don't know what's going on. I never have trouble with my internet. I don't know what this is.
They don't want you talking about Krumrie. We'll move on to linebackers here. My pick was only for a handful of years because he obviously didn't want to stick around through more losing, and just wasn't able to convince him when Marvin came in that he'd turn it around. Takeo Spikes. Again, he might have been the most talented linebacker the Bengals have ever had on their roster. And the guy just looked. I mean, he was absolutely huge. Muscles on top of muscles. In 5 seasons, he had 40 tackles for loss, 14 and a half sacks, 5 forced fumbles, and was just literally sideline to sideline player.
The crazy part, I remember Takeo Spikes, and when I saw this today, I looked it up. I didn't know he played for I didn't know he started his first 5 seasons on the Bengals. I remember him playing for the Chargers and stuff like that. I didn't even know he played for the Bengals because his first 5 years, his last year on the Bengals was the year I was born. So, I never saw him play on the Bengals, but I do remember Takeo Spikes being a really good player on the Chargers and a couple other teams, on the 49ers, stuff like that.
Yeah, and just a beast when he was out on the field. Again, it's a shame the organization was as crappy as it was back in the day, and I don't blame him for leaving and going to Buffalo. Not that he got a lot of team success there when he went to Buffalo, because they were pretty much just as bad, but just lights out sideline to sideline player. Brian Simmons came in the same year, drafted for linebackers, and they were fun to watch on some not so fun teams. So, Parker, who you got?
For linebacker here, I'm gonna go with Ray Malaluga.
I'll drink to that.
The team in tackles throughout. What'd you say?
I said I'll drink to that. He got bummed for some DUIs.
Ray Malaluga. Yeah, no, Ray Malaluga. He was a very just solid linebacker on the Bengals and all, like, seriousness. Like, he was nothing special. He was a really solid player for a long time for the Bengals. I mean, from 2009 to 2016, he was on the Bengals roster. Started pretty much every game he was there at middle linebacker. Really solid player for a long time. He really wasn't something exciting, really something special, but, I mean, he put up a lot of tackles, and, he did good enough.
Yeah, what I remember about Malaluga. Oh, okay, we're back again.
Also, he lived by my grandma.
Okay.
There you go.
My grandma. Yeah, I used to see him at the park growing up.
I just remember Johnny Manziel's first NFL start was against the Bengals, and the Bengals were really good then. And they absolutely kicked the crap out of him. Malaluga got a sack. I don't know how many guys got sacks or got hit on the quarterback, and they're doing the money sign. He was not a 3-down player because he didn't have a lot of sideline to sideline speed, but a really good run support. So good choice. Bill, who you got?
I'm going to go way back to the 1969 AFL Defensive Rookie of the Year, Bill Bergey.
About to look this guy up.
He did not. He was only with the Bengals until he signed a contract with the WFL, and then Paul Brown traded him to Philadelphia. But he was an incredibly, incredibly great middle linebacker. Just a dominant. And then he went to the Eagles and was probably even better than he was with the Bengals. He had quite a long career in Philadelphia, but he was with the Bengals, I don't know, 3 or 4 years maybe. And
it was 5 with the Bengals, and then it looks like 8 with the Eagles.
And in 69, when the Bengals drafted Greg Cook, who won the Rookie of the Year, The same year they drafted Bill Bergey, number 2, and he was the defensive rookie of the year in the AFL. So Bill Bergey is probably the one that I would say. Reggie Williams is another one that is up there. As a name to throw out there, there was a guy named Ron Pritchard who played linebacker for the Bengals. This would have been in the early 70s, I would think. He came over in a trade from the Oilers when they traded Fred Willis. And Ron Pritchard is the only Bengal that I know of that was also a professional wrestler in the offseason.
That's fantastic. Yeah, he traded to the Bengals in 72, midseason, it looks like, and played with them through 77.
Yeah, and the other middle linebacker that always jumps out to my mind is Jim LeClaire. Was a really, really good middle linebacker.
Okay, yeah. I always liked James Francis. I always thought he was a good, maybe underrated player, but solid player. Obviously, the Bengals have some good linebackers right now. There was a long gap between probably from when Spikes and Simmons left until Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt that they had solid linebackers. I mean, you had Dhani Jones or some guys who would have a decent year, and again, Maluga was solid, but it was
Perfect
a long
was
time.
Good before he went absolutely insane.
Well, I mean, he was that was part of his charm. He was batshit crazy on the field, and one of the few guys where you can't defend the guy. No. Like, he's just playing hard. He's not trying. No, he was trying to hurt guys and trying to end careers. He was a bit of an asshole, but you'd prefer him to be on your team than playing against them, because someone's going to get their ankle raked in a pile or try to get their knees taken out. So
about Francis, he was kind of in that beginning of the transition of linebackers from being big, stop the run guys to being able to have to get back and cover more. And he was in that early transition period of linebackers too. He was a real good player. He came out of somewhere in Texas, I believe.
I think Baylor, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that is right. I believe that is correct.
And he was 90 team, if I'm not mistaken. Like, he started on was it 89 or 90 when he was drafted? I'm trying to pull him up here. I had his page up earlier on Pro Football Reference, and I can't find the damn thing. This is exciting live.
The other linebacker that I liked from the 70s teams, and he wasn't great or anything like that, was a linebacker, a kid named Ken Avery. He was an outside linebacker that I always really liked him.
I had high hopes for guys like Caleb Miller. I think he was drafted out of Purdue, if I'm not mistaken. Adrian Ross. I mean, they had a bunch of guys like, oh, this guy's going to be something. Steve Tovar. I thought, oh, this guy, I think this guy's going to be a long-term starter, and they ended up like crapping out, and they couldn't shed blocks or couldn't cover a tight end over the field. So, it's nice to live in an era right now where they actually have good players at that position. Moving on to the quarterback room, moving to defensive backs. Bill, who you got? This seems like a pretty cut and dry, easy choice for you.
Well, the two cornerbacks are easy.
Yeah.
Riley and Parrish. They're the best two cornerbacks they've ever had at the same time, by far.
Absolutely. Yeah,
and I think they compare with any two cornerbacks on any team ever at the same time.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, the Bengals had their best cornerbacks on the field. How long did those two guys play together? Probably 6-7 years, I think. I know Riley was around until 83.
Well, and for 5 of those years, they played with another guy that we'll talk about in a minute, and they had a hell of a secondary then.
I think I know who you're talking about in the secondary room. I'll leave that one for you. But it's anyone that Parker and I are going to add are going to pale in comparison. But I'm going with Leon Hall. Just absolute gamer. I mean, the guy came back from 2 Achilles tears and was still a solid contributor, even after rehabbing those. 26 interceptions, second team All-Pro, and was just the leader of the defensive backfield during the 2011-2015 run.
Yeah, 100%. And then I'm going to go with Jonathan Joseph. He's one of the first
running
I remember from the mid-2000s. I think last year was 2010. Yeah, he never played with Dalton in them. No. He got better once he left the Bengals, but this guy was an absolute gamer even on the Bengals. He was a really solid player. He ended up being a second-team All-Pro and Pro Bowler 2 times after he left the Bengals, but he was really fun to watch on the Bengals. I really enjoyed him a lot. 6 picks one year on the Bengals as well, towards the top of the league in interceptions. And the guy played till he was like 37. I think he played 16 seasons at corner, which is very, very rare. The only other guy I can think of just off the top of my head, recent memory that played that long is Terrence Newman.
Yeah, another former Bengal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not happy when they let Jonathan Joseph go. Again, you had Hall and Joseph, and I know like Bengals draft a lot of cornerbacks, but if you have one, why draft to replace? I mean, that's always kind of been my, just pay the damn guy. And he went off and had a great second run in Houston. So,
yep,
yeah.
Other guys throw out there, guys from the SWAT team, Eric Thomas,
Billups.
What's that?
Billups.
Yeah, Lewis Billups. Ashley Ambrose for a couple years, like absolute free agent signing, came out of nowhere, like made the Pro Bowl. I think it might have been first or second team All Pro one year in the '90s on the shitty teams. Crap, who am I absolutely? Torrey James, Deltha O'Neal, those guys were pretty good in the mid 2000s.
I was trying to remember.
Yeah. Both pickups, free agent pickups, surprisingly, but they both played pretty well for the first playoff team in 2005. So, safety room, Parker. I'll let you start off with the safeties.
I'm gonna go with Reggie Nelson. What was he? 6th all time in career interceptions for the Bengals. He was an absolute ball hawk in his time on the field with the Bengals. 1-time Pro Bowler, but like the plays this guy made, it felt like he was more than a 1-time Pro Bowler with the Bengals. Like he always, it seemed like, came up with the big game-sealing pick, the game-sealing play, stuff like that. He made a lot of big hits as well with the Bengals. Like he was just a very exciting player to watch. And he was definitely probably my favorite defensive player when I was younger on those early 2010s Bengals teams.
I feel like half his interceptions came against Ben Roethlisberger, which made it even better.
Yeah, 100%. He was awesome for the Bengals. A lot of these guys, like, they played both with the Carson Palmer era and the Dalton era.
Yeah, defense kind of held together in the transition between those guys.
Together, and then the offense was all new. That's what I was about to say. The offense was all new.
Bill, I think I know where you're going with yours. Can I make a guess?
Go ahead. Well, you can. Actually, I've got 2, but go ahead.
I'm going to guess Tommy Casanova.
That's who I was talking about. Yeah.
That's who I figured. First up, one of the greatest names in NFL history, but I'll let you go on yours.
Well, and my wife will tell you he's the best looking man that ever played for the Bengals.
I know he was a heartthrob.
Yeah, he was. She worked at Barleycorns downtown then, and they used to have she had a Tommy Casanova T-shirt. And she had it when we got married. So again, he did everything. A great safety, return punts. Like I said, when they had Riley and Parrish and Casanova, that was a tough secondary, and he was just a really, really, really good player. But he only played for 5 years. He's another one. Found his calling. He became an ophthalmologist, an eye doctor, and he also did at least one term in the Louisiana State Senate.
Interesting.
He was a politician for a little while. And the other guy that comes to mind immediately, of course, is David Fulcher.
Yeah, that was that's my guy here.
In '80, I think he was on the 2nd Super Bowl team.
Yeah. He was huge. I mean, he was almost as big at safety as Mike Reed was at defensive tackle. 6'3", right. Almost 240 pounds. I mean, that's a friggin' monster.
Well, wasn't he big? Was he bigger than Reggie Williams?
I think he might. Let me check what Reggie Williams was.
They were playing together. I mean, Reggie was a linebacker while Fulcher was a safety, and there was even talk as Fulcher aged about moving him to linebacker. It never happened, but he cheated up from that safety position, and you didn't want to come across the middle.
Absolutely not.
Hanging back here at safety.
Yeah, Reggie Williams was listed 6'1", 228. So yeah, Fulcher had 2 inches and about 5-10 pounds on him.
Yeah.
And besides being just that huge presence in the middle of your defense, I mean, an extra linebacker. I mean, he could run. He had 30 in defended passes. He had 31 interceptions, third in team history behind Louis Breeden and Ken Riley.
Yeah.
Just an absolute presence. Again, I mean, how many alligator arms did you see on passes heading over the middle towards his way? And I get it. I would absolutely shit my pants if I see a hospital ball, and that Fulcher's right behind you, getting ready to send you into an attraction right then and there. So, other guy that has to be mentioned, a very recent former Bengal, Jesse Bates. I don't think he was the best safety of all time, but was fantastic. Definitely, requires some acknowledgement. And you see how much the defense missed him last year with just being able to hold the communication between him and Von Bell. And obviously, they're trying to get that back, bringing Von Bell back this year. But another guy that didn't get the recognition that, I don't think he even made a. There you go, Marshall. Absolutely, David Fulcher was scary as hell. But Jesse Bates should have been a multiple-time Pro Bowler.
He had the best year of his career this year too on the Falcons.
Yeah, he
finally got the recognition he deserved. He was a second-team All-Pro this year and a Pro Bowler.
He should have been first-team All-Pro if you ask me, just as well as he played. But I guess he did get second-team All-Pro in 2020 with the Bengals in his third year. But still no Pro Bowl appearances until this past year. So,
which I feel like now that's never mind. I was about to say I feel like now Pro Bowl appearances mean a little more since they announce the rosters and they don't play a game, but people still opt out. You still had Gardner Minshew in the Pro Bowl this year. Back with defensive players though, it's a little more of a big deal than like quarterbacks and stuff because they all opt out. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the defensive players still go.
Yeah, they don't. No one wants to. Tyler Eifert got hurt in the Pro Bowl game and jacked up his next year for the Bengals. So I get guys opting out, and it kind of became a joke because you'd have, who was it Tyler? No, was it Tyler Huntley who made the Pro Bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah, last year Tyler Huntley, I don't even know how many games he started for the Ravens, made the Pro Bowl. Yeah, not even half the season. That's nice to put on your mantle that you made a Pro Bowl, but did you really? Are you up there in the same realm as a Joe Burrow, as a Pat Mahomes, players like that? No.
And at least it used to be a free trip to Hawaii. It's not even that anymore.
Right. Where is it Vegas? Didn't they play to Vegas last couple of years?
Maybe Vegas, and if it was in Orlando, I know
they had actual Pro Bowl when they were still playing actual football. They moved to Orlando, which whoop-de-doo. I was in Orlando 3 weeks ago. Now, granted, no one wants to play football in Hawaii because that field is an absolute train wreck and asking for ACL and Achilles tears. But still, you go hang out on the beach and sorry, I'm sick. I can't play it tomorrow. Right. Make a quick phone call to the next guy on the list. So I didn't list them here, but we'll go over specialists. I don't think we really need to mention who the best long snapper is in history. Nobody really cares. But.
You only know a long snapper's name if there's problems.
Clark Harris.
Randall Kirk. Brad St. Louis. Yeah, no, it's probably Clark Harris. He'll forever be a legend just for being the guy with Evan McPherson hanging out on the field watching the Super Bowl halftime show. So, and you saw how much his absence hurt when he got hurt in the first game of the season, and the Bengals had to rely on Mitch Wilcox to snap field goals and extra points, and the Bengals lost to the damn Steelers in that first game. Right. God, that was so aggravating to watch. Anyway,
not that Joe played exceedingly well that day either.
Yeah, he threw two pick sixes, I think.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah,
I think he threw 4 picks altogether.
It was bad. I know T.J. Watt had one, Minka Fitzpatrick had 2 interceptions, and Highsmith and someone else had another one. But who do you have as the best field goal kicker?
Probably Jimmy Breach.
Yeah,
just consistent. He wasn't long, but he was consistent. If you were, and back in those days, if you were inside the 40, that's all they really asked out of you, and he never missed inside the 40.
No, absolutely not. They had I remember they used to bring in Lee Johnson to kick the longer field goals, or they had
and he would kick off.
Jim Lowry. They had other guys. There's Jim Gallery. They had another field goal kicker on the roster that they would only bring in for the longer field goals when it wasn't Lee Johnson. I want to say Gallery, if I'm not mistaken. I gotta look it up.
I don't know how the scoring. My guess, Horst Muhlman is probably still up there in scoring on the Bengals. It's somewhere in the top 10, I would think, maybe as kickers. He was a kicker early on.
We talk about Tommy Casanova with a great name. I think Horst Muhlman has the best Bengals name. As someone with a lot of German heritage myself, He literally sounds like they just plucked him off of a soccer pitch from Bayern Munich.
And that is where he came from.
I figured he was one of the European soccer-style kickers. Yes, Jim Gallery kicked for the Bengals in 1989. He was
not good.
2 for 6.
Yeah.
And all of them, 4 of the kicks were from 40 plus. So, yeah, they brought him in for the longer kicks, and he sucked. He was only 1 for 4. I knew I remembered that name to kick longer field goals.
But Jimmy Breach was consistent and good.
And, yeah, I think Tyler Huntley was the 19th alternate quarterback after the corpse of Dwayne Haskins, although I think Haskins was still alive at that point, so that joke didn't land. Sorry, too soon.
Too soon.
Parker, who's your we'll say favorite kicker? Got to be Money Mac, right?
McPherson, yeah, it's
Money Mac, yeah.
Mike Nugent was the other kicker for a long time, and then you had Fat Randy. Since I've been alive, so yeah, it's definitely got to be McPherson. Reggie Bullock used to piss me off so bad.
So long as he doesn't. So long as
you guys
McPherson.
Remember the opening day 2020.
CZ Cavs. CZ Cavs. His calf sees up on him. First off, that shouldn't even have come to that point anyway. AJ Green got called for the most bullshit offensive pass interference. Just horseshit. Like Joe Burrow's first game ever. And there was a game-winning touchdown to one of the greatest wide receivers in Bengals history. And they called bullshit offensive pass interference. And then, yeah, a gimme field goal. I mean, it was, I don't remember the distance, but I mean, it was
7 yards.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was well under 40 yards.
It was shorter than an extra point. I remember that.
Yeah, okay. Pushes the damn thing. Jesus. And how they let him even kick the next game is beyond me. I mean, he wasn't good to begin with. That was the year they drafted or was it 2019 when they drafted, when did they draft Jake Elliott? Like, they wasted a draft pick on a kicker and then cut him.
And then cut him at the end of spring and the end of training camp. And he went to the Eagles the year that they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and he's been one of the best kickers in the league. And again, I'm perfectly happy with McPherson now, but if you're going to waste a draft pick on a kicker, carry him to the roster at least.
Yeah, literally. At least give him a shot in the regular season.
Otherwise, you look like an ass. Punters, it's got to be Lee Johnson, right?
I guess Kevin Huber was a good punter for a long time.
Yeah.
And the other thing I don't think I've always said he never got enough credit for. He was an outstanding holder.
Yeah.
He was an outstanding holder. But Lee Johnson was really good. Pat McAnally was a pretty good punter back in the day.
Wide receiver / punter, the first man to ever score. First ever to score a perfect 50 on the Wonderlic.
Went to Harvard.
Yeah. He and I think Ryan Fitzpatrick also scored a 50 out of 50 because he also went to Harvard.
Did he go to Harvard or Dartmouth?
He was Harvard. Reggie Williams was Dartmouth.
Reggie Williams was Dartmouth, yeah.
Yeah. We know the Brown family loves their Ivy League guys, so. And
especially Dartmouth.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Brad Robbins.
So long as you don't go with oh shit, what was they drafted a kicker / punter out of Purdue. It was Travis Dorsch. Like he pulled, yeah, he pulled this. This had to be 20 years ago or so. I can't remember. He pulled double duty at Purdue. He kicked and punted. Bengals tried him at both in 2002. There we go. And he was just terrible at both of them. I don't think he kicked. I don't think he actually kicked in a game. Punting, he had 5 total punts. Yeah, 32 yards per punt. Wow. Longest of 46. And he was
a jack of no trades.
A 4th round pick on a punter. And it lasted 5 games.
Wow.
That was, yeah. It wasn't like, I guess that was 20 years, over 20 years ago. It doesn't seem like that long ago, but my man.
Time flies, man.
There have been some embarrassing players that have gone through the Bengals organization and throughout their history. Again, this is why, Parker, do not take for granted having a team that is solid and a contending team. Like the people that run this team are the same people that have run it. I mean, since since 1968. So
no, yeah, since I pretty much started watching, I've been pretty lucky. Like, we made the playoffs 5 straight years. We didn't win a game, but we made the playoffs. Then there was a bad 4-year stretch, and then Burrow's been here since. Like, I watched the first year I ever watched was the 2010 season, the TO.
Okay, the
That's
TO
the first year I watched religiously. Like,
you were lucky enough to not be alive during the dark days.
Yeah, no, I wasn't I watched the mid 2000s, but like I wasn't like paying super attention. I was little, but like 2010 was the first year. Like, I'm checking the stats every day. Like, I want to know you know what I mean. That's the first year I really cared a lot.
You didn't have to watch David Klingler or
Achilles
Smith. I was about to say.
We
found out. Was it last episode? I found out his son's the number 1 quarterback prospect in the country.
Yeah, which is crazy.
His son's the number 1 quarterback prospect in the country, going to Oregon next year in the class 2025.
Which is hilarious because I think Chad just brought up on Friday's show, brought up Achilles Smith's name on Friday's show. Someone asked the viewer mail question, and I wonder what he's up to. His son is one of the best quarterback prospects in the country right now.
Yeah.
So
that's a legacy that's going to be tough to overcome.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to do much, though. Seriously,
that's true.
Put up 10 touchdowns in a season, and you surpass your dad.
In a career, can you complete 50% of your passes? Then you're well on your way to being a better NFL quarterback than your dad.
Yeah, he's a 5-star recruit, number 1 quarterback in the country, headed to Oregon.
That just makes me feel old.
He looks just like him, too.
All right, I don't think we need to pick up who the best best mascot and everything like that was. Clearly, it's Ben Zoo. That was the name of the live tiger, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember. I remember when they used to have a live tiger at the ball yard.
I think they need to bring him back.
I think so too.
It would be fun. Just the fear of maiming somebody would be awesome.
It would keep him from going to like one end of the end zone, you know?
Right. Yeah, Neil O'Donnell. Neil O'Donnell was pretty good actually that one year. Scott Mitchell was awful. And we went over at the Corey Dillon game when he ran for 278 against the Broncos. Achilles Smith was like 4 for 12. Neil O'Donnell came in and was like 0 for 9 in that game. So yeah, Scott Mitchell came in and was 0 for 9 after replaced
Gus Farratt.
Gus Farratt, the guy who headbutted a wall and sprained his neck. You guys remember that? Or you wouldn't remember that, Parker? But it was a Sunday night game. So he was starting for Washington, and he scored a touchdown. And he got himself so hyped, he went over to the wall and headbutted the wall with his helmet on and sprained his neck. And that's what made him attractive to Bengals.
Yeah, so the Bengals went out immediately in that offseason, signed him.
Yeah, like this is the guy for us. He's going to lead us into the glory days of John Kitna.
He will fit right in with our team's spirit.
Major League.
Spirit animal.
So it's like Major League. Fits in with our team philosophy. And what is that exactly? Oh Lord, we were talking too much about guys that suck. This is supposed to be about guys that are good. Anyway, before we get out of here, we told you guys about Riverfront Live, our show on July 6th. Again, come meet us, come have fun with us, have a drink with us. Bill will buy you a drink. No, he won't. I'm just kidding. Bill, you gonna be able to make it?
I'm trying. I'm not sure yet. That's the day before my birthday. I don't know what we've got planned.
Well, then I will buy you a drink if you were there.
I'll buy you a drink too, Bill.
Parker will buy you a drink.
Shit, if I'm drinking for free, you never know.
Right, exactly.
You never know where I'll show up.
Right. Well, I mean, I met your lovely wife. I'll buy your lovely wife a drink as well. So to give her an enticement to come down too.
My wife / nurse / caregiver.
Right. That's pretty much that's how most wives end up, whether they want to be or not. So mine just tries to keep me above the kids' level of maturity, and it doesn't work. They try though. Check out Late Night Reds this week. Nate was actually recording early. They're doing a Bengals our all-time draft of Reds that have been picked up by trade. So that'll be a fun episode on Friday morning. Red Leg Roundtable with Seth. Seth had former Reds reliever Scott Sullivan guy pitched. I swear he pitched like 80 games a year, didn't he?
For years.
He was out every other. Like it seemed like every other game he was out there. And I mean, not like he was a hard thrower, just throwing almost underhanded sidearm, but guy remembered fondly as being on some not so great teams, but still a solid arm. Late Night Reds, Tim and Ben unfortunately have to sit through an hour of live talking about a Reds team that just isn't fun to talk about.
Not right now.
I got at least with the regular the Reds show, like you can bring up old stuff or talk just have a fun don't have to talk about current events, but when you're talking an hour, you need to have someone talk about current events, and it's just I guess it's group therapy more than anything else. So.
Yeah, another bad loss today. That didn't help either.
Nope.
But they won yesterday.
They did.
What
are they now? What if they won? Like 3 of their last
15.
What is it now? 15?
Something like that. I mean, it's like 3.
Well, they were on an 8-game losing streak. Went to the West Coast, won 3 of 10. So that's 3 and 15. More. So 4 and 16 in their past 20.
Wow.
Not great, Bob.
Not good.
Not great at all.
We're taking care of those peaks and valleys.
Exactly. All valleys, no peaks. Anyway, guys, final thoughts before we get out of here for the night.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Joey Votto.
What's that, Parker?
The Reds could still have used Joey Votto. He shouldn't have let him walk.
People are beating that. People are beating that horse into the ground.
I'm not saying he would have affected but he could do better than Mike Ford.
Oh, right. And I love Joey Votto. He's probably my second favorite Red of all time behind Barry Larkin. But you're seeing all the at-bats being given to shitty guys. That's because there have been so many injuries that they didn't expect. Do you really want Joey Votto battling for a roster spot on a team that he's a legend on? No, let me ask that. And that's what he would have been.
Yeah, but I still think he could have been your backup first baseman. But
the only thing is he's only had one at bat in the minor leagues for the Blue Jays.
Hey, he homered though.
And then he stepped on a bat and jacked up his ankle, and is he back playing? Yeah.
That swing looked good though.
Yeah, I mean, but believe me, I think Joey Votto could help out the 2024 Reds at plate and as a leader, mentor, whatever you want to call him. But if the team were healthy, the team that they expected to have, he's literally battling.
In retrospective,
right?
But obviously, yeah, we weren't expecting these injuries.
Right, you didn't expect Marte
in the offseason were right-handed bats, not left-handed bats.
Yeah, you didn't expect Marte to be popped for roids. You didn't expect McLean to tear out his
non-throwing shoulder.
His labrum, and all the other injuries to go down. Votto really would have been battling for the last You don't let a franchise legend be the 26th guy off the bench shuttling back and forth between Louisville. I think that's a bad look, and they clearly, right, wrong, or otherwise, they were ready to move on from him last year anyway. So
for $7 million a year.
Yeah, you can like the decision, love the decision, but we're talking in hindsight, they moved on and he's injured. He hasn't been very good when he's back. He has no defensive value. He has no base running value. It's all hitting, and he's got a 92 OPS plus over the past 2 years. So what do you want? Anyway, we're Bengals talk, not Reds talk. Guys, this was fun. I appreciate you, Bill. This is fun. We'll have you on again soon before the season starts.
Anytime.
So, Parker Fields for Bill Black. I am Joe Farsing. We will see you all next week.